I love this question because for me, I feel like kind of reflecting on the things I used to do when I was younger versus now, I feel like a lot of it comes pretty full circle for me. I started on piano. That was like my first like instrument, and I started when I was 9, and before I even like began to like learn how the instrument actually worked or how to perform or anything like that, I really just focused on like writing as much as I could at the piano. I was really drawn to just like making sounds and doing things and writing songs. And so I feel like my earliest memory of something that I created as a composer was just a piece that I wrote when I was like, I want to say probably 9 or something like that. But yeah, I was really drawn to just like making music at an instrument and kind of like improvising, I guess. I wouldn't have called it that back then, but yeah, that's how I started.
I talk with a lot of people who kind of share that sentiment as kids, and it's basically like born out of like I was bored with all the other stuff I had to play, like the stuff I had to play as a pianist. Do you feel like it was that, or like more of an extension of the music that you were learning and practicing and playing?
I feel like for me, it was actually more of this happened before I actually started playing my instrument. So I was really drawn to like playing a thing and making sound, but I didn't actually know what I was doing at all. And I feel like honestly, that kind of defines my compositional journey as a whole, was I just kind of felt really drawn to making sounds. And still to this day, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I really enjoy it. I know what I'm doing a little bit more than I did back then. But I think like the kind of creative freedom of just being able to sit at a thing and be like, no expectations, here's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to like play and see what happens is really how I started. And I think as I became more informed in like how to play my instrument and everything, it really just helped me kind of keep exploring that idea as opposed to like feeling like confined in a box of like, oh, it has to sound a certain way or look a certain way.
Sure, yeah. How or where did you have access to this piano and other instruments growing up?
So it was my grandpa's old piano that my mom had like taken back to her house once he passed away. And so it was really out of tune. It was really, really out of tune. And it was like it had such awesome character. We tried to get it tuned like when I was actually studying piano. But the people who were working on the instrument were like, this can't be fixed. Sorry. And so I love the sound of that piano. We unfortunately got rid of it when I was older, but it was like my favorite thing to just kind of sit and play on that piano. And yeah, I started taking lessons. I think when I was 9 is when I began.
So a lot of what you do today, in addition to being a composer, it seems like your primary musical performance activity is playing electric bass and singing, which we're going to get really deep into a little bit later on. But can you kind of connect the dots between the point that we're at now and like when you were 9 years old, which is, I know, a long time? What was your musical journey like? Were you primarily a pianist throughout that time, or did you join like a school ensemble or choir or something like that?
So I studied piano like through I think from when I was 9 until when I was about 16 or so. I stopped taking lessons after that. I was really primarily interested in like new age music at the time, film scores, that kind of thing. And so I was really drawn to that. And so I studied piano kind of like formally, but also informally then. And then I also joined school orchestra when I was in 6th grade. So I started playing the violin actually for 5 years. My orchestra director like would not let me switch to the bass, even though I played the electric bass. So we had too many bassists, and she also said my hands were too small, which I don't know. That's an interesting argument, but I actually like switched to or upright bass in high school. I think I was a junior, so it was really late. But I started playing bass when I was 12, and so really, what I was like primarily focused on during that time, I was in a school program that was actually it was outside of school called the School of Rock. I don't
Yeah.
know if you're familiar with that program at all, but basically, like, you learn how to play in bands, and it's essentially like you learn how to play in bands and how to perform at like a fast and like higher level. So they have like all different sorts of shows where you could play different genres of music, and they had like an advanced band that often gigged like every single weekend. And so we had to learn like a lot of songs in the course of a couple months, and that was basically primarily how I met most of the people I still play with today, and also the bands that I was involved in school and everything. So kind of connecting those 3 things, the school orchestra was kind of more of my I guess, classical roots, and then the School of Rock was more of like connected to what I do today.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Micromaker by Loose Leaf Transmissions. We hope you enjoyed this brief glimpse into the inner workings of the creative life. If this resonated with you, be sure to check out the full conversation on Music Maker with Tyler Kline, a podcast exploring craft and process, philosophy and inspiration, and the honest, often messy parts of being an artist, creative uncertainty, purpose and identity, and resilience. You can find Music Maker wherever you get your podcasts or by visiting musicmakerpodcast.com.